This is the Project Management Podcast. We bring project management topics to beginners and experts. Find us on the web at www.thepmpodcast.com or send your emails to pmpodcast@gmail.com. Hello and welcome to episode number 39. I am Cornelius Fichtner. This is the Project Management Podcast for the 30th of June 2006. Organizational project management maturity models are our focus of today's episode. We will be looking at what they do for you as a project manager and for your company. And I will also give you the executive overview over 4 such models. And to begin, here are the usual announcement and some helpful resources for you as well. But following last week's disaster where I spoke into the wrong side of the microphone, let me just make sure that I have it the right way around this week here. Yep, that looks good. Alright, you heard it in the introduction. We can now be found at www.thepmpodcast.com. At the moment, this is just a forwarding address, and when you type that into your browser, you will be forwarded to the old place on Blogspot. But as I'm moving away from Blogspot and create my own site, you will no longer find us over there. So www.thepmpodcast.com should be the new bookmark or favorite that you have in your browser. Well, first of all, going away from project management here, a little homegrown project, so to speak. We ate our first zucchini this week. Told you that I moved into a new home here in California, and my wife and I, we actually put in a little vegetable garden, and stuff just grows around here. It's absolutely amazing. So we had our first zucchini, and it was absolutely delicious. I guess the fact that it grew in our own garden made it twice as delicious. And a yellow squash is gonna be next. And while we are talking about vegetables, I would like to say thank you very much to the owner of the blog, which can be found at www.potato-world.org. He or she is French, I believe from France, if I saw that correctly, and wrote an absolutely wonderful review about the Project Management Podcast. So whoever you are, thank you very much. I was very impressed about what you had to say about this show. Also, if you go to the blog, you will notice that I have put my picture up on there. Many of you have asked, hey, what do you look like? So you can find out for yourself now. I will be playing 2 listener feedbacks for you today. And the first one I mentioned a little while ago already. It is from Patrick Richard, and he is from Canada. It's a very long one, so let's just listen in to the opening.
Hi Cornelius, this is Patrick Richard out in Montreal. Since I have time to provide some feedback, I thought I'd give you a bunch in one sitting. First, sound quality. The new microphone improves the sound of an already amazingly good recording. In fact, I noticed it within seconds of the beginning of the episode in which you first used it. On the more general topic of giving feedback.
Patrick continues, well, for about 2 minutes, and he gives me great ideas on how to market my podcast, what to improve with the podcast. And Patrick, trust me, I am going to use many of your ideas and will be using them on the new site at thepmpodcast.com. And the same goes for Michael Kennedy. Michael Kennedy wrote to me, and he said, hi, I was wondering if you had a global list of all the helpful resources rather than me having to listen to or look through each individual episode. Specifically, I am trying to find the open source PM tools mentioned a while back. Signed, Mike Kennedy. Well, Mike, at this point, I don't have a global list, but when you go to the blog, thepmpodcast.com, are you sick of it yet? When you go there, you will see that there is a search box at the top, and you can just look for open source, and I believe you should find it. But my idea is that on the new site that there will be some sort of categorization of all of the new helpful resources that will be coming, so that it is easier for everyone to find them. Next, remember, over the past 3 weeks, we have been giving away or asked you to participate in the book giveaway, and I have the winners for you. You may remember we had 2 books, so each winner today gets a different book. Neil Witten's No Nonsense Advice for Successful Projects goes to Kamala Karboga. I'm sorry, I mispronounced your name, I bet. And he or she is from the USA. The second book, Powerful Project Leadership, goes to Matt Harrison. He is also from the USA. This time around, my wife and I, we did a little bit different. We threw all the emails that you had sent to us, and by the way, they were from all over the world. It's a pure coincidence that we pulled 2 from the USA. We threw them on the floor, and my wife was dancing around on them, and just at one point closed her eyes and grabbed down and picked them up. So, different strategy this week. And finally, I have had many emails and also people writing to me in the 8 questions survey about your listening habits. Cornelius, are you still doing the PMP Prepcast? Are you still planning on doing that? Yes, I am. But trust me, it's a hell of a project because I have to set up everything from scratch. I have to create these shows. I have to get ready because once I launch this, I want to have something viable for you to start listening to so that it's actually of value to anyone who wants to pass the PMP test and who wants to use the Project Management Prepcast as an audio companion on the road to becoming a PMP. My current goal is, and we're project managers, we all know about goals, in terms of schedule. My current schedule goal is to be ready for publication at the end of September 2006. Yes, I'm going to take a leap. It's September 2006. All right, so until then, I'm going to keep you updated on what's happening with the Prepcast, and we'll see whether or not I'm able to actually hit that target dead on. Today's helpful resources are provided to you thanks to an email that I received. And the email reads, Dear Cornelius, my name is Eliseo Pita and I am writing from Spain. I am a chemical engineer and I have been working for more than 10 years on automation engineering as a project leader. Since beginning of the year 2006, I am working in the same company as a project manager for control and automation projects in the steel industry. I do not have any background on project management, apart from all the experience I have had working as a lead engineer. I would like from you to recommend maybe how I should orient my studies to improve my knowledgeability in project management. In particular, what courses do you recommend to me? Take the PMP exam, take any others. I need all the courses to be completely online. Well, Eliseo, first of all, in about 3 months at the end of September 2006, I will have the PM Prepcast ready, and that will help you on your way to becoming a PMP. You have to look around your area. You have to know what people in Spain are asking. And that goes for everyone out there. Whether you're in Spain, South Africa, England, Ireland, Germany, the United States, Brazil, you have to know what the community requires. In England, it's probably Prince 2. In the United States, you definitely want to be a PMP. In Spain, I do not know. You have to know that yourself. Go out, find out in the project management community which certifications are important. for you. Now then, I have 5 ideas for you where to get started. If you are looking for PMI sanctioned training, then try out the PMI's Registered Education Provider list. I will put a blog up on thepmpodcast.com and you can just click. And did I say blog? I meant, of course, I will put a link up at thepmpodcast.com, and clicking on that link will take you directly to the PMI Registered Education Providers. Next, well, of course, I have to mention it. For the last 4 weeks, we have had the University of California as a sponsor. You've heard it. They're providing online training, so check them out. Again, I put a link in the show notes for this week. Go click on that link. Go over to the University of California, Irvine. I hear they have a very good online project management program. But I also want to mention Villanova University. Whenever you search for project management training on Google, Villanova is right there at the top amongst others. That's the way that I have also found Stanford. Yes, Stanford offers advanced project management online. So it's not just the universities like UCI or Villanova, the big names also offer them. And I bet if you look up the universities in your own country, you will find that many of them will have online project management seminars that you can take. Finally, I also want to mention something from Brazil. How good is your Portuguese? Well, mine is very bad. But Peter is a friend of mine. We've communicated over the past months, and he is creating a free online project management course, of course in Portuguese, in Brazil. And he's going to include the Project Management Podcast sound files as part of this training. It is called GP3RD, and you will find the link to this free online course. It's coming, it's in the making, he's about to release it pretty soon. You will find the link to that, as always, in the helpful resources on the blog. Now, as you have heard, I have taken a listener question and I have turned it into a helpful resource. And I would like to continue this kind of communication between you and me. Why don't you shoot over your questions that you have, your search for ideas, your search for resources, and I will try and answer them either as a helpful resource, or if I find this is something I'd like to just talk about, I will pick that up as a main topic of one of the future shows. So send them over, pmpodcast@gmail.com. All right, and now let us move on to the main topic of the show, Organizational Project Management Maturity Models, OPMMMs. We're going to do it this way. First, I'm going to tell you a little bit in theory about these OPMMMs. Then we'll break it up. I have another listener feedback for you that I'm going to cut in right there. And at the end, I'm going to give you the executive overview over 4 such models. Let me start out by answering the question, what and why? What is organizational project management and why should we bother with these? Let's start with the why. So why should we bother with these OPMMM models, project management maturity models? Isn't it just good enough, to have a solid project management methodology in place in our company? Well, yes and no. Project management methodologies are good for your projects. They allow you to manage your individual projects. You clarify the individual project goals. You're tracking your project milestones. And by using the same methodology over multiple projects, you increase the overall project performance, project efficiency, and it's easier to compare your projects. But a project management methodology's number one primary focus is on the individual project to make that run smoother. The idea, however, of OPMMMs is to increase the ability of an organization to implement their strategy through successful, consistent, and predictable execution of projects. These models help you to manage your company-wide programs and portfolios, so they're bigger than just a project management methodology. An important note is also that you want to be able to do this, of course, no matter whether you deliver software, or you manufacture gardening tools, or produce milk. The industry is absolutely unimportant as long as the capability, the ability, the maturity of your organization exists and allows you to deliver consistent project success. So, OPMs or OPMMMs will help you draw a clear connecting line between, on the one side, the ability of your company to execute projects through project management methodologies, programs, portfolios as well, and on the other side, the implementation of your company's strategy. So how do you take your strategy and translate that into successful projects? You may also have noticed that I use the terms OPM and PMMM interchangeably. Well, the terms are really interchangeable, and it all depends which acronym you use. Now, let's continue. Why should you actually do this? Why should you implement an OPMMM? Well, first of all, it draws a line in the sand for your company. It tells your company, we are here when it comes to project management maturity. Our capability is here. But also, as you're doing this, and I find this the good portion of such programs, as you are doing this, as you're going through this, it also makes you as a project manager think, well, where am I? Frankly, as I was preparing this presentation today, this episode today, I was looking at all these PMMMs and I was thinking, man, where am I? What is my capability? And I looked at all these and I'm thinking, oh yeah, I could improve here, I could improve there. So these models, even though they're not targeted at an individual person, they're going to make you think, well, what about me? Where am I personally standing? So this is the first. It draws a line in the sand and it makes you think, where are you standing? Second, of course, they improve the approach of executing the projects, and they define what improvement means. You can't just say, we want to get better. Now we've drawn a line, now we want to get better. You have to say, how do you want to get better? What is the pathway that we're taking? And by doing this, you've heard this one, of course. You stop repeating the same mistakes, you learn from your mistakes and improve yourself as a company. It provides a common language, etc., etc., etc. And of course, lastly, these maturity models, they can be used as a benchmark to compare companies, because if you use the same maturity model as another company, be it in your industry, be it outside your industry, you know exactly where you stand and where they stand, because you measure the same criteria in both companies. All right, let's look at how this actually works. Most of these maturity models, they follow pretty much the same path. First, they start with a self-assessment. I already mentioned this. It draws a line in the sand. You define where are we in regards to, let's say, defined structured processes and following these structured processes. And how do we compare to best practices in the field? So that's the self-assessment right there. Next, you plan for improvement. You plan where you want to go. And not just where, but also how you want to go there, how quickly you want to go there, what steps you have to take, what organizational changes you have to make. Now, can you imagine how much political power you need to introduce such a program in a 25,000 worldwide company? I mean, it's an enormous task that you're undertaking, so you have to plan this out right. You also want to look at maybe which portions of the project management in your organization do you want to improve, and what steps you want to take. All models also offer multiple levels of capability. So you start at the bottom and then you take one step up, one step up, one step up, and you define where you are and what the next step is that you want to take. And usually when you define, okay, we're at level 1, you don't just go say, okay, we want to go to level 5, you go to level 2, then you go to level 3, etc. The third step is where you implement, of course, the changes that you have planned for. And this is the part where you take all your current processes and you redefine them and you work them so that you go towards the next level in the maturity model that you have planned for. And finally, number 4, the fourth step here, results review. You review the results and you repeat the process. You go back. Well, did we get where we are? Do we want to continue? What's next? You either go back, you say, no, we're still at level 1, we have to change a few more things in order to get to level 2, or you continue. You say, okay, you go forward. Let's redefine. Let's see where we're going from here and what we need to do in order to get to the next level. Yes, and this was the theoretical overview of these OPMMMs and what they do for you and how they function. Now, some listener feedback for you from the phone line that I have, and then I'm going to give you the executive overview over 4 of these PMMMs model that are available today.
Hey, my name is Owen. I live in San Diego. I just bought my new iPod Nano and Google for management, web management podcast. Found your series of podcasts very, very interesting. I just actually heard. I hear only 1.5, and it's interesting. Even though I'm not a project manager, PMI. I'm not part of the PMI. I'm just a software manager in a startup company here in San Diego. It gives me a lot of information about stuff that I don't know, and I'm eager to hear more podcasts. Have a great day.
So here is the executive overview over 4 PMMM models that are available today. And when talking about capability maturity models, of course, you have to start with CMM, or rather today, CMMI. CMMI is from the Software Engineering Institute, and it is their capability maturity model. Now, the CMMI was a collaborative endeavor. About 100 people from nearly 30 organizations around the world were involved in this. There's industry, government, and there's also the Software Engineering Institute that were involved in creating this. And the CMMI project was formed. They wanted to create a set of integrated models. They wanted to improve best practices from these source models based on the lessons learned from CMM, and they wanted to establish a framework to integrate future models as well. Now, let's take a look at what came out in the end. What they have is they have actually 2 representations of this model. They give you on the one side a clear path, a staged path, as they call it. You've all heard it, right? Our software development company is CMM Level 5 certified. Many companies in India have this certification. That means they are at the top of the CMM level. So you start at the very bottom, of course, you do an overview, then you move on to maturity level 2, maturity level 3, etc. This is kind of the step-like process that I talked about earlier today. However, if you find that, we don't really actually need to compete with anyone, we don't need to know 100% are we at maturity level 4 or maturity level 3, then you don't have to go up these staged levels. CMMI enables you to have a continuous improvement process. And there what they do is they focus on the processes in your company. So they start you out, instead of saying level 2, you work on the process management first. Then next you work on the project management. Then you work on engineering. Then you work on the support in your company. In my view, this second version, the continuous one, it's less rigorous. It allows you to focus on your company's needs, and you're not forced to say, okay, we need to change everything in order to go to maturity level 3. No, you can do the things and implement those things that you need in order to move forward with CMM. Next, we have the PMMM, the Project Management Maturity Model. This was developed by PM Solutions, and I quote, used to measure an organization's project management maturity. Once the initial level of maturity and areas for improvement are identified, note once again here we're talking about drawing a line in the sand and then defining where you want to go. So once these are identified, the PMMM provides a roadmap outlining the necessary steps to take towards project management growth and excellence. Sounds good? Yes, it is, because what the PMMM does, it combines the older CMMs, oh, too many M's here, the older SEI's CMM5 evolutionary maturity levels. Remember, we talked about those. Those are the staged approaches, so they take these staged approaches and combines them with the Project Management Institute's, the PMBOK knowledge areas. So what it in fact does, it integrates the industry-leading standards for project and process management. So it takes the PMBOK, it takes the CMM, at least the version that I have found here, takes the CMM, and it combines those two together. And thus it provides a combined method for advancing your organizational project management maturity. Let's see. What they say here is that, and I like this very much in their documentation of the PMMM, they say that you need to think of project management maturity as an ongoing process, not a rapid transformation. It's not something that you can do in 2 or 3 months. This takes years. They also say that you need to set your maturity goal at an appropriate level. Of course, they say it here at an appropriate level in PMMM, but it's the same for CMM, CMMI, the OPM3, or the P2MM that we'll just talk about in just a second. So set your goals right. And finally, you want to focus on continual improvement. So once you're done, once you're at the next level, well, what's next? Let's continue, let's improve. And when you're at the very top, what happens then? Well, continue, work towards improving even more. Now, what I like about this is here, when you go to the website of PM Solutions, you will find a table in which they have the 5 stages from CMM at the top, and on the side down they have the various knowledge areas from the PMBOK. And so in the cross areas where the columns and the rows meet, they put in what is expected. For instance, on level 1 for project integration management, they say no established practices, standards, or project office. Work is performed in an ad hoc fashion. And then when you go all the way over to the right and you look at what project integration management is supposed to look like at level 5, project integration improvement procedures are utilized. Lessons learned are regularly examined and used to improve documented processes. And just between those 2 examples, you can see an enormous change from the beginning, oh, we're just doing something, to the end, level 5, we are planned, we are documented, we do this in an orderly fashion. That was the CMMI and the PMMM. What I haven't mentioned yet is those 5 levels, what they mean. Let's just go through them rather quickly so that we have at least kind of an idea of what they are. Level 1 is an initial process. Can the organization even recognize project and run them differently than its ongoing business? Level 2 is a repeatable process. Does the organization ensure that each of the processes are run with each of the projects, are run with its own processes, procedures to a minimum specified standard? Level 3 is then a defined process where you look if the organization has its own centrally controlled project processes. Level 4, there you have managed processes, where you look at whether or not the organization has and retains measurements of its projects and runs quality managed organizations. And finally, level 5 that is the optimized process. That's where you look at whether the organization does or does not run a continuous improvement with proactive problem solving and technology management. So these are the 5 stages that you will find both in CMMI and in the PMMM. Alright folks, you can probably tell I'm excited. I like this stuff. To me, these maturity models, they're really great. You can see that people have put a lot of energy into this. And this is what enthuses me about project management, when you can see that this is something that will help you both as a project manager and as a company to move you forward and help you be successful. Now, let's move on. I have 2 more to look at here today. First, let's not forget the P2MM, the Prince 2 maturity model. Now, the Prince 2 maturity model is slightly different because it recognizes the need for training, but puts it in a broader context, which requires an organization to separate the accreditation, like passing the Prince 2 exam, from learning the principles of Prince 2 and, quote, ensuring the method is embedded effectively into the organization. Let me repeat that. Ensuring the method is embedded effectively into the organization. What does that mean? This means that the P2MM is a maturity model that supports the usage of the Prince 2 project management methodology. The idea behind this is that if you're using the Prince 2 project management methodology in your company, you probably want a project management maturity model that fits this project management methodology, so that you don't have to take PMMMM or CMMMMMI. Sorry about that. So you don't want to use those and adopt them to your company. You want something that you can use and that fits Prince 2 project management methodology. And this is where the Prince 2 maturity model comes into play. Now, something slightly different here, and that's the fact that Prince 2 does not go all the 5 stages that I have just introduced to you. Prince 2 only takes the initial, the repeatable and the defined stages. The 4th, managed, and the 5th, optimized, it says that they are just out of scope for the Prince 2 management model. They're just outside of it, and it doesn't look at those. But if you as a company are using Prince 2 project management methodology and you're interested in growing, then this is a perfect approach. Take the P2MM, implement it as your maturity model, and it'll move you forward. Disregard the fact that it only goes up to defined. If you have defined processes, you're probably up in the top 5 to 10% of companies in your country managing projects successfully. All right, finally, let's move over to OPM3. OPM3 is the Project Management Institute's Project Management Maturity Model. Now, Prince2 is a project management methodology and it has P2MM, so you can use those two in combination. Well, the PMBOK, which is the PMI's methodology, is not really a methodology. It is a project management framework. You can't say, okay, let's now create a maturity model to support the PMBOK project management methodology. Doesn't work because there is no PMBOK project management methodology. It's higher, it's a framework, it's much broader than a methodology. So the approach that the PMI has taken is they want to help the company be able to transform business strategy into results through project management. And what they do is they have taken a similar approach like PMMM. Remember the table I told you about? At the top you have the 5 stages, on the left hand side you have the 9 knowledge areas of the PMBOK. Well, OPM3 does something similar. It has 4 stages and it has 3 domains. The stages are pretty similar to what we've already heard. Standardize, measure, control, and continuously improve. Yeah, standardize, measure, control, continuously improve. Pretty much the same idea. Draw a line in the sand, plan forward, and move forward until you continuously improve. And they look at that in their 3 domains: project, programs, and portfolios. So they really take a big, high-level approach. They go as deep as the individual project. How do you continuously improve on an individual project? How do you continuously improve on a program? And how do you continuously improve on a portfolio? So PMI took the large approach of really looking at the company as a whole and integrating business strategy and project management into one, while P2MM took the Prince2 methodology and integrated that into a project management maturity model. There you go. These are the project management maturity models, a quick executive overview over these 4 for you. Hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, well, and that's it for today. Thank you very much for listening. Next week, I will be taking a break. So there is no show going to be next weekend. That would be, what about the 7th or 8th of July? Maybe doing something quick, 5 minutes or so, but don't expect a full show. As a reminder, hey, if you are using iTunes, I would appreciate it if you would write a short review about the program in the iTunes Music Store. Fire up iTunes on your computer, go to the Music Store and write a review if you please. Hey, and if you have a phone right next to you at this point, why don't you pick it up and dial 206-339-6520. Again, 206-339-6520 and leave a message on our feedback line. Would appreciate it. Well, and since last week, you can find us on the web at www.thepmpodcast.com, or you can send your emails to pmpodcast@gmail.com. And when you write, please tell me where in the world you are writing from. And finally, we have this, with thanks to John Philip Schlosser for sending me a ton of project management proverbs. And here is the first one. Too few people on a project can't solve the problems, and too many will create more problems than they solve. With that, in order to avoid conflicts later on in your project, you should always get the buy-in from all your project stakeholders at the very beginning. Until next time.